The world of work is changing rapidly, and in this podcast, we're examining the challenges and possibilities emerging within this change. We're talking about everything from labor market information to how to enable the thinking and doing that leads to better workforce development and employment outcomes. This is the Workforce Collective podcast. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Workforce Collective podcast. I'm your host, Caleb Meeks, marketing assistant and content creator at Workforce Collective, and today I'm joined by our lovely Rachel Crane, learning and engagement lead at Workforce Collective, and executive director at Literacy Link Niagara. Today we're looking at a brief we published here at Workforce Collective about the education sector, titled A Glimpse into Our Education and Training Sector. So first off, Rachel, thank you for being here, and also public congratulations on the new role at Literacy Link Niagara. And for those that don't know, what does your organization do, and what are you doing as executive director?
Yeah, thanks. I feel grateful and honored to be in the role, and it's fairly new for me. But because I've spent most of my career in training and workforce development as an educator, and because Literacy Link Niagara has been a partner to Workforce Collective for several years, there's a lot of interconnectedness and potential to strengthen our work in order to serve the community better. And so you asked what we do. So Literacy Link Niagara is a regional network of adult learning programs. We have 10 in our network in Niagara, and they each receive funding to deliver free literacy and basic skills programs to any adult in our community. And my role is to support the managers of those programs, the frontline staff and educators who instruct into those programs. And I help facilitate professional development and consult on business and strategic plans for them according to what the needs and demands are in our community.
Okay, so adult literacy, that's a very important thing, and it sounds like you have a pretty big role. I just want to say I love that we're on a podcast right now about the education sector, because that's how we actually met. For everyone listening, Rachel was my diversity and inclusion teacher at Niagara College through a program called Empower. Empower is partnered with NAPAM, which is Niagara Peninsula Aboriginal Area Management Board, and Niagara College Empower, which is my path of worthwhile educational re-engagement. They funded tuition and gave a living allowance, provided transportation, daycare was covered. Really, anything that may be barriers to education was considered, and that had a pretty big impact. Like, some of us weren't able to either get to school, or some of us had kids in the class. And just really any kind of reason you would be able to think of, like why I can't go to school, they really took that into consideration. I think that's important. The goal was to take youth that was not in school and re-engage them and just get them back on their path of education. And for me, I think that was great. I was just working your regular 9-to-5 jobs, and it just takes you and puts you in that environment. Once you're in that school, you realize like how impactful school is, how inspiring school is, and it just makes you want to continue to train yourself. So normally on these podcasts, we discuss the issues the sector is facing and what impact it has and possible solutions, why it's important. But today I want to focus on a little more of these training programs. Many post-secondary institutions are developing programs that are more accessible, like the Empower program, how they eliminated barriers to education for all of us. So why, Rachel, are these accessible learning pathways so important?
First, I just want to say memories, something in my life. So we were doing karaoke earlier this morning where I just thought I would continue that. No, but that's a great, thanks for that trip down memory lane of how we met. And it just jogged to a very recent memory of yesterday I started teaching into the Link program. It's a quite popular, highly subscribed program at Niagara College, and it works with our local school board to engage high school students. So they get college credit and high school credit, and they get to engage in this kind of alternate learning and different kind of program. And so that just started yesterday, so it's very fresh. And when you said about learning environments being really inspiring, I just couldn't agree more. It's part of the reason why I'm drawn to this work and why I love working in education. And I hope that we can realize as a society that learning doesn't stop. Like, we can actually fully embrace lifelong learning. It's a cliche term sometimes and maybe almost abstract. What does it actually look like? How do you learn every day, all the time? But that's something that is certainly a concept that we hold at Literacy Link Niagara and Workforce Collective, I'd say. So we want to help make lifelong learning more accessible And you asked, why is it important to do? So I will talk a little bit about the local context that we're in. In a community like Niagara, we have a significant amount of people living in poverty with low to no income. It's also not a given that folks have actually graduated high school in the kind of predetermined timeline that our system gives them. So there, right now, for example, about 22,000 working age adults. So not high school and below, right? Like these are working age adults who do not have their Ontario secondary school diploma. And we know that there's almost 50% of adults can't work well with numbers and words. And so when I hear about numbers like that, and I think about the people that I know who humanize those numbers, I start to wonder, what would it look like if they could find an alternate path into education, into employment and skill development, and then how much better would their job prospects be? How much would they be able to live into their potential and reach new heights and new goals? So that for me feels very inspiring, that we can support, like these programs exist. And a lot of times, like you said, Empower is free. They gave you financial supports. That exists in our literacy and basic skills programs, Literacy Link Niagara as well, and so many others. We can talk about that later in the podcast. What I think is really important to mention now, too, is coming out of the pandemic, we also have this rise of mental health challenges and learning developmental challenges. And so we need that alternative, more accessible routes to education and support in terms of, again, financial support or one-on-one coaching to have that instructor work with you and meet you where you're at in order to work through the material, the courses, the learning. We also have connections to wraparound support, so mental health support, psycho-spiritual counseling, and just trying to help people be really well so that they can get the most out of their education and learning programs.
I heard you say there's 22,000 working age adults without a high school diploma, and 50% of adults can't work well with words and numbers. That's a stunning kind of statistic to hear, because for those that do have their high school diploma, you might just look around and you might not realize that kind of impact. But that's why I also liked how you said lifelong learning, because some of us, I think often we can get this impression, especially going through high school, you think that you're supposed to get your diploma at a certain age. And a lot of people, even if whether they go to school after high school or not, a lot of people are just ready to be done as soon as they don't have to go anymore. But I think there's like a beauty in education and a beauty in learning. And I don't think there's restrictions on it. So I really like that idea of lifelong learning.
I agree. And I also want to say, what would it look like if we had more people pursuing that lifelong learning or higher ed or post-secondary, so after high school? In Niagara, we have this incredible opportunity that we have Brock University. We're sitting here recording this podcast right now. There's access to a ton of different kind of learning inside and outside the classroom. Brock University and Niagara College in their own backyard. And the potential to navigate and level up your career and navigate through really interesting and lucrative careers is really high, given that opportunity. And then on the flip side, with employers, there's also a ton of employers who are seeking to fill labor shortages and address the gaps they have right now. So what would it look like if we can help people, again, meet them where they're at, the skills that they need to develop, and work more on that individualized learning path in order to connect them with that employer who's going to hire them, or that program that is going to help them pursue that continuous education. Ultimately, members of our community who want to better their lives.
And not just like career opportunities either, but through education, you learn so much about yourself too.
Yes. And I think like it's been, for me personally, it's been just a huge source of wellness, or maybe contributor to my wellness. It's action confidence. Like you're trying new things, you're learning new things, your mind's expanding, making all these different connections. And that helps your esteem needs when you're connecting with people or teachers or community that's helping your social needs. There's so much more, like you said, than just the paper you come out with or the education kind of content that you learn. It's about the whole experience.
Yeah, I think a really beneficial thing in personal well-being is seeing yourself develop and grow in something, and just having growing confidence in yourself like that. So I mentioned NAPAM as an employment and training organization that's helping Indigenous youth in Niagara, but what are some other ones?
Yep. There's, off the top of my head, Civic Connect, which we mentioned in the brief. Civic Connect, they have various programs, but the one that I've connected with the most is called Youth Skills Studio. So they're helping to address better employment opportunities and outcomes for youth. So usually I think it's under 29 is their higher end age bracket. And they actually pay young people, young adults, to work on different projects to help a small local business or nonprofit, in that they're actually working, they're getting that experience, but they also have on Mondays and Fridays a work integrated learning session. So then they talk about what they're learning on the job. So it's like a co-op placement. It's super innovative, I think, because instead of just going working as an intern, they're actually working just on higher level projects and again, getting paid to do, which is huge because they're getting that financial support and also remuneration. So they're getting a reward, almost their incentives, right? It's just a great program. Future Black Female is another organization that I've worked with, and they've mandated to support young Black women. But now they're realizing that there's also young Black men who need support, and just maybe thinking about not having an age cap on their supports and trying to, like even right now we're in Black History Month, like shine the light on and amplify Black excellence and more inclusion in the workplace, as well as education systems, in government and politics. Like they span kind of different areas, but within education, they're doing some awesome work in school boards, and they go into high schools and talk to the youth and provide safe spaces. So it's a kind of, again, alternative way of educating and supportive to the youth's education. And the last one I'll mention is YMCA of Niagara, Employment and Immigrant Services. At Workforce Collective, we work with them very closely on different newcomer and immigrant employment projects. And they have right now, I could reference many programs that they have, but right now they have something called Power of the Trades. And it's funded to support people, to expose them to different opportunities in the skilled trades, manufacturing, apprenticeships, like all different kind of pathways and career options within the trades. And they work to support those who aren't typically represented in the skilled trades in Niagara. So again, trying to recruit and engage more newcomers and immigrants into the trades.
So for people looking to further their education, how can they connect with these services?
That's a really good question. We have some new initiatives that are trying to help integrate the services, because as you can imagine, these people on the front lines who are helping coach the youth, the newcomers, the job seekers, the learners, they have their hands full. They're doing amazing work in working with the clients or learners one-on-one. And then that kind of collaboration or kind of referring learners and clients it hopefully happens, but there's not necessarily a well-designed system. So at Workforce Collective, we're helping that system to become more well-defined. And so we have something like the Workforce Coalition that we've just started, where we meet regularly with leaders from these different organizations and talk about how we can align and plan more strategically together to help, again, benefit the community and the humans who are accessing our services. We're part of things like the poverty reduction strategy, and I know that's a key goal, is to help integrate services so that I don't have to go talk to a healthcare organization, education, social assistance, financial support. I don't have to continue to talk to these people one-on-one. It's like, how do the people work as a team to support me? I really love that about the Empower model too. Like as an instructor, I was part of like circles of support for some of the learners in the class. So I could talk to the learner and I could talk to other educators. I could talk to the social workers and figure out how to best support the person who's receiving the services that we were offering. Pretty cool to think about that, like the community-based wraparound support. So that's what we're trying to do. Long-winded answer. That I'm pretty deep in this work. And I do love what we do and what we're trying to do. I could talk all day, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to say simply you can go to our website to learn more. You can always email me. So I'll reference both websites. It's workforcecollective.ca. Our brief is located there. Our resources page. We have a whole page dedicated to the caring economy, which education falls under. So you can go cruise around on those pages and learn some stuff. And then you can also go to the Literacy Link Niagara.ca website, which we reference Literacy Link a lot. And I'm happy to, have an email, a phone chat, in-person coffee, whatever it takes to help people understand how to navigate and connect and start to engage into these services. Because there really is a lot. I know we talk a lot about challenges and problems that we're trying to address. There's also a lot of opportunities and a lot of really great services and work being done that exist that a lot of people don't know about. In these early days of working with Literacy Link, that's number one goal for me, partly why we wanted to get this podcast out there, is just tell people what's out there. And then hopefully, get the word out and more people can know about it.
Awesome. That's all the time we have today, Rachel. But what a fantastic discussion, honestly. Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone listening. If you want to learn more about our work surrounding the education and training sector, visit our website and read our brief titled A Glimpse into Our Education and Training Sector. Visit workforcecollective.ca and you'll find it under Featured Publications under the Tools and Resources tab. We invite you to follow us along our journey as well through LinkedIn, Twitter, and our monthly newsletter. And stay tuned for more episodes of the Workforce Collective podcast. You can find us on Spotify, or just say, Alexa, play the Workforce Collective podcast. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.